Well, we are back for our review of the monthly numbers from the real estate market here in the Denver metro area, and joined by the talented and beautiful and smart Brenna Harper.
Hello, how are you? How is everyone? Is it Friday yet?
Uh, close. We're a couple hours here before our, once in a decade blizzard. It's supposed to be pretty gnarly from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, 1 to 85 inches.
Somewhere in that mix, right? This is typical of Colorado. We get a false spring, and then a snowstorm comes, and it's just this is the way that it goes, right? We're still going to get more snow next month. So,
Yeah, so
for
for all of
those
our
that are
summer loving people that went and got pedicures this week and we're excited to wear a dress like me, joke's on us.
yeah, we're not quite there. So, with those that are watching, right, make sure you drop a comment into the chat box. Let us know you're here. Specifically, if you've got questions, some things that you want us to review or go over. Now, Land Title, the title insurance company that you work for, puts together these numbers every month as to what's the data.
Yep.
And you and I are having these discussions because we want to convey what's really going on. It's not this story that everybody's telling around the water cooler about the time they went fishing, right? It starts off the fish was that big. Before you know it, we've got Moby Dick on the end of that on that fishing line. So we want to make sure that we're the source of good, relevant information for people that are curious about what's happening for the Denver metro real estate market. So it sounded like as we were kind of prepping for this, Land Title made some adjustments in some reporting or added some additional things for reporting. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we just added, so we still have all of the points that we typically talk about, and let me know when you're going to share my screen and I'll pop over. But we added median on a few things. So especially, I think one of the most relevant ones, and we'll go into it, but days on market. So how that's categorized in the multiple listing service is from the time that your agent puts it active until it goes under contract. So when we look at average days on market, it's in the 20s. It's like 22, I think. I'll have to check. And that feels wrong. That does not feel like the speed of the market because it takes into account maybe those very few homes that never sell, or that $3 million home that sits on the market for a couple months or like several months. So it just didn't feel like the most accurate description of what we're actually feeling. So that's the big reason that we do these numbers, is to basically explain what we're feeling and what's going on. So, your agent knows what's happening, but sometimes it's hard to pinpoint from a quantifiable number, like this is why it feels the way it does. So we wanted to make sure that those matched. So if we look at the median days on market, it's five days. So that's a big difference from 22. And that feels more accurate. That feels more what we're looking at. So when you're a buyer and you say, well, why do I have to go on my lunch break to see this home? Because the average days on market is 22 days. No, it's 5. Or, as a seller, well, I don't really need to make a price correction because I've only been on the market one weekend and I don't have any listings, but the average is 22, so I'm still okay. So setting those realistic expectations as someone buying or selling a home, and for the agents trying to advise their clients to set them up for success, we just felt like these two metrics were really important to add.
And I think it's great. It's a great move to get some more relevant data. So for those of us that it's been a while since we were in math class, high school, middle school, elementary school, whenever we covered mean, median, and mode. Explain. Say that again. I missed it.
Sixth grade.
Yeah. So explain the difference. What is the median versus the average?
Yep. So the average is when you take all of the numbers and you add them up and you divide them by the number of entries. So if there's 10 different numbers, you add up all of them and you divide by 10, and that's your average. The median is putting them in order from least to greatest and the middle number. So it's strictly by like truly, if you were to put them on a timeline, which is in the middle. So there could be multiple numbers like 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4. So all of those are taken into account when you count in from the outsides to get that middle number.
Yeah, so probably a little bit more accurate when we throw out the extremes and we're looking, okay, what is happening right in the middle, right? If the average is 22 and the median is 5, that's telling me that there are some that are really on the extreme side of that, right? We're looking at, 100 plus days, 180 days on the market or more. And then there's a lot of numbers that are going to be on that 5 and under.
Yeah, and I think it's still, the average is still relevant. It's still, it's what most people report on. So most title companies, the Denver Metro Association of Realtors, they use average. So it's a very well-known metric. And when we're looking historically, it helps us to see that, and it shows that, and that's great. But for the specific market that we're in and for how extreme of a seller's market it is, we just wanted to add this extra metric. So, it might not be relevant in a couple months. It might not be the best metric, but for right now, we felt like it was definitely one that needed to be included.
Yeah, so not to replace the average, it's simply an additional number to take a look at to get a better picture of what the whole story is. So
yeah,
I'm going to add your chart here so we can take a look at the graphs. All right, how big can we make this so we've got good? Is
that good?
Yeah, if you can go a little more, I think it'll be easier to see. Maybe I need to update these prescriptions.
I think we do. That's as big as I'm going to go. Okay.
So let's hit the highlight reel.
Okay. So, a lot of this is not going to, if you tune in every month, a lot of it is not going to sound too much different. But we are continuing to go down on our active inventory. So, how low can you go, the limbo mindset, as it says here. But we have 1,800 homes, active listings in the Denver metro area, and that's combined. So that's detached and attached. And it's 54% year over year. It's down 54%. So that is pretty incredible. And I'll show you on the graph so you can see historically what that looks like. So we talk about this a lot, but as far as a balanced market or what that would look like, for Denver, it's probably around 4 months. So maybe around like 24,000 homes. And now we're sitting at 1,800. So we are there's just not a lot of inventory. If we go into pricing, this is one that I talked about too. So we added the median price. So for detached single family home, so that's a home that doesn't share walls with anyone. The average price point is $625, which is up 17% year over year. The median is a little bit less scary. It's $527. So still up 14% year over year. But I think, and why we added this is because you see that average price point, and again, kind of the same conversation. This includes the multi-million-dollar homes, and this includes everything. Boulder has an average price point of over $1 million. So adding in that median price point just lets you see that if you can't afford or don't want to afford a $625,000 house, that doesn't mean that you can't play ball. So there's different ways, and we'll kind of look deeper into that. But the median sales price is about $100,000 less than the average. But as you can see, double-digit appreciation year over year. So from February 2020 to 2021, we've gone up over 10%, so double digits here. And then this one is also very indicative of what the market is doing. So the percent sold to list price. So what that means is what the home was listed for versus what it sold for, what that percentage is. Historically, we see it at about 98%, and it's at 102.8%. So that's up 3.2% year over year, which doesn't seem crazy, but when you're talking about this list to sold or sold to list price, it is quite a bit. So kind of a way to think of that is if you're looking at a home and you're not willing to go 2% to 3% over list price, if it is one of those that, you know, has one showing for the whole weekend, then that might not be the right home for you. So as far as putting like numbers into it and saying, okay, I have this, you know, $500,000 home, I need to go 3% over to be able to play ball. Does that make sense for me? And, you know, Matt will tell you that's not the scenario in every single home. You don't always have to, but it is the average. So there's some that are going for more than 102%. And there's some that are going for less, but just a way to set expectations for, I think, especially buyers as to what your approach needs to be, what you need, how you want to strategize and set yourself up for success instead of being like, oh, we're going to get a deal and get it under asking or maybe even at asking, just, you know, setting the right expectations.
Yeah, for sure. Right now in this market, getting the house is the deal.
Yep.
You know, if you can get the house, that's the deal. That's the discount because you can save a lot of money if you aren't competitive and you don't purchase the home. So getting the home is there right now. Again, that's the average. So you're going to have some that are way more than that. You're going to have some that are less.
Yep.
So, you know, that's kind of a ballpark to say, hey, for me to play ball, I need to be about in this. I want to back up here real quick on something, on the detached homes in particular. So the median value went up 14%. The average value went up 17%. So I want to look at this strategically from somebody who may have bought their home a year ago. Yeah. So let's say you bought your home a year ago and it's a conventional, maybe 5% down, maybe you put 10% down, and you have mortgage insurance that you're paying on that. So your mortgage insurance, it may fall off at a certain time, depending on your loan, when they've calculated you may have enough equity. You may be able to get an appraisal and actually give that to the bank and have that drop off. So if you bought your home a year ago or 2 years ago, still paying mortgage insurance, right? Reach out to me, reach out to your real estate agent, whomever you reach out to get an idea what the value is today. And see if you can't save yourself some money by getting the mortgage insurance to drop off, because that number is a massive increase in value.
Yep. I think it's also something to consider. A lot of people say, well, I'm going to wait for the market to correct or to slow down. And, you know, rightfully so, because it's a very competitive market, but the market hasn't slowed down very much. And maybe it's not always double digit appreciation month over month, year over year, but it's still trending up. So, you know, if you bought a home last year, or if you didn't buy a home last year, now you're paying 14% more. You just have to put that into consideration, you know, as well as interest rates and different things like that. And what equity are you missing out on your home? There's a lot of different factors, but I think a lot of people are just waiting for that perfect time. And sometimes it's not going to get magically better in a year all the time. So.
Yeah, I mean, when we have conversations with folks about, well, I'm going to save up some more money so that I have a down payment, a bigger down payment, and we're talking about almost 15% on $500,000, right? Quick math, that's $75,000 over the course of a year in equity that it's cost somebody. So I don't know about. Well, I probably know more about your spending habits and saving habits, Brenna, than the average person. But for those watching, maybe you're more like me. It would be very difficult to save up $75,000 over the course of 12 months. And then to look at it as, okay, I just spent 12 months saving all of this. I skipped all this Starbucks. I bought, thrift store Christmas presents because I'm being super frugal or whatever that looks like, just to be in the same spot I was a year ago. And it was interesting before I got into real estate, having these conversations with friends that are like, well, I'm going to save up money before I buy a house. And that may be a good strategy in certain situations. That may end up costing you a lot of money in other situations. So we've got to be cognizant of what is our goal, what is our objective, and is what we think actually what's happening.
Right. And we always talk about interest rates as well. Money is very cheap right now. And we did have a slight correction. So I think the last time I heard, some of them are up to 3%. Historically, that is still so low. But if they tick up, that just takes away your buying power on a different level. If obviously if you're getting a loan. So just something to consider too, taking advantage of the interest rates where they are, and the fact that Denver, and I think Matt and I are going to talk about this, that Denver and real estate in particular is a really great investment. Even though unemployment rates have gone up in this past year more than they were. I mean, we were at historic lows, like I think 2% or something at the end of 2019. We're higher than that, but the real estate market is really stayed solid. So it is a solid investment, even though it's so competitive and even though it is a big investment for sure.
Yeah, without a doubt. And for context, historical average for interest rates is just under 8%. If we look at the average interest rate for the last 30 years, from about 1990 to 2020, it's just about 6%. So we'd say they went up to 3%, still a great rate. They go up to 4%, that's still a great rate, right? We're still way below the average.
Yeah. Okay, so if we look at attached single family, it's not quite as competitive. So we're at 398.5 for average sales price, which is almost, again, just shy of double-digit appreciation, so 9.3% year over year. And then our median is 335, which is up 7.9. So still some great appreciation there. Comparatively to detached, we're only at 100.7% sold to list price, which is up 1.3% year over year. But that might be an opportunity area in some conditions, that there's a little bit more inventory. It's a lower price point typically in that attached price point, and that might be an opportunity for some buyers right now.
Yeah, to be a little strategic, to get yourself in the game. Again, if your home goes up in value 10% over the course of the year, that's kind of free money, right? We didn't trade time for dollars. The market worked out and gave us that.
Yep, absolutely. And then the days in the MLS, so it's 25 days. I apologize, I said 22. Moving 2 weeks faster than February of last year. So when you put it like that, I think that makes you feel it. 2 weeks faster. That is a lot faster. And then, as I mentioned, the median days is 5 days. So that paints quite a different picture than 25 days feels.
Yeah, very, very different. The market's still quick. The same thing we've been talking about for 12, 15 months, right? Inventory levels are low.
Yep. So this is one of the market snapshots that we look at every month. It's detached and attached combined. The green line is active, the blue line is pending or under contract, and then the red line is sold. So if you look over here into February, you can see how low we are. We're under 2,000 for active inventory. So even just in 2020, but 2019, we were in February under 6,000, but still you can see on the graph, that's a massive decline as to where we are. And we thought we were short on inventory in 2019. got close to a little bit more balanced out at the middle kind of 2019. And then obviously 2020 just dropped off. We talked about last month with the pending being blue and it spiking up, that I thought that solds would tick up just because pending is a leading indicator and then solds is a lagging. So typically makes sense. If it goes under contract, it's going to sell. So when we see the pendings go up a little bit, we expect the next month for solds to follow. And we did see that happen. So I'll talk a little bit more about solds, because something that is really interesting to me is that the people are putting their homes on the market. So the number of new homes on the market is only about 5% less than last year, but it's about 4,500 homes that came on the market. Active inventory, we're just absorbing them so quickly because we have such a shortage. So it's not that no one is putting their home on the market. It's just that there's more buyers buying up the homes than are coming on. And we only have a bench, or, what's left over, of about 1,800 homes.
Yeah. So, I want to comment on that. All right. I'm going to look into my crystal ball and say, we are probably not going to have this pace continue on for the entirety of the year. Now that's my crystal ball. I think we're going to see a loosening of inventory. I think the buyers that are going to buy this year right now are pushing the envelope and starting to buy earlier. So that pace, I've just got a feeling that it's going to break at some point. That's the good news. The downside to that is that doesn't mean that there's going to be discounts or that homes are going to be cheaper, because they're already rapidly appreciating because of what's going on right now. So if we wait 3 months and there happens to be, a closer balance there in the market, we would have already experienced the rapid appreciation for the market, considering the low inventory we have now. So I don't say that as to scare somebody off from buying today, that we're going to have some things that are going to maybe break free. Again, that's my speculation. I could be 100% wrong. We'll see what happens here over the next.
Oh, did I lose you? I think you froze.
How about now?
There you are. Hello.
All right, hold on. Let me get okay. So I'm not sure where did you lose me at? I was on a roll.
Just at the very end. So I think you were just finishing up. So I don't think we missed too much. But
my technology likes to do that when I'm on a roll, right? It just is like, okay, Matt, you've said enough. Stop talking.
The playoff music, I told you.
Yeah. So I was saying we may go back to this video in a couple of months and say, what did Matt predict and was he right? 100% I could be wrong, right? The crystal ball doesn't actually tell me anything. It's just a feeling that I have that, again, could be right, could be wrong. Wouldn't bet my mortgage on it.
Right. I read an article this week that talked about some of the reasons our inventory is so low. And I'm going to paraphrase for sure and not hit on all the high points, but there was a few interesting facts that we actually have quite a few. I want to say like a third of our buyers are first-time home buyers. So what that means for inventory is that they're taking up the inventory, but they're not giving it back. So a lot of times when people buy a home, they have to sell a home first. But if you're a first-time home buyer, you're coming from a rental or something like that. And so you're just buying and you're not selling. So if we have a lot of people buying for the first time, we're not replenishing that inventory. The other thing that we're seeing is, and we've talked about this before, is the builders are low on inventory. So they're not building enough homes to keep up with the pace of inflation in our population. So we're already kind of in the hole there. They're not keeping up enough. Lumber's gotten really expensive. Obviously with COVID, everything is really hard to come by. I've heard of some builders that are like waiting on garage doors because their suppliers are so far behind. So it's not even about like money that, oh, we can't afford to build more homes. Some of it is just they don't have the workforce or the supplies to get it done. So that's also cutting into it. And then we're seeing a lot of people coming in from the coast moving to Colorado because they're figuring out how great Colorado is. And you know, if 2020 taught us nothing, it's that we can do a lot more from home. And so these people that are working in Silicon Valley or New York City now can work remotely, and they're choosing to live in Colorado. So again, these people are coming and buying, and they're not adding anything to our active inventory. So those were kind of 3 high points that I was like, oh, that, you know, that makes a lot of sense. And just something that's playing a factor in why our inventory is so low.
Well, and to touch on that as well, I think, and I know the national statistics, the interest is up for second homes, vacation homes, buying Airbnbs. I'll assume here that that's happening in the Denver metro area. Folks buying second homes, again, they're buying up and they're taking inventory without releasing and getting more homes onto the market.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, I'm going to jump here to the solds because I know, Matt, you wanted to share one of your slides. So we've touched on this one. Active inventory is low. You can see that. I think that's something we're all pretty familiar with. But what I wanted to show here, if I can get to it, again, month supply of inventory, we're at about 12 days.
Well, and Brenna, if you happen to have that article that you read that in, if you could drop that into the comments section here at some point today, that would be fantastic. If you
yeah,
could find
I will
that
do
article.
that. Yep, it was put out by DMAR. It was a great one. Denver Metro Association of Realtors. Okay, I want to get to the solds to talk about. We're really not that far off. We kind of talked about this last year too, that even though we had that dip, the year over year number of homes that were being sold was not that far off. Okay, so this is our sold data. So we're here, 3,700 homes sold in February. So last February we sold 3,500, and the February before that we sold 3,300. So we are up 4% year over year. But when we're talking about being down 50% in active inventory and our prices are appreciating double digits, these numbers are pretty close. So again, it talks to not necessarily that people are afraid to put their homes on the market and that they're not putting them on the market. It's just that there's more buyers. It's a supply and demand issue. Did I lose you, Matt? I lost him again.
We'll fix it.
There it is.
So, yeah, not that people are not putting their homes on the market, just a lot of people out looking at the same inventory.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, did you want to share? I'll stop sharing here. If you want to pull up yours.
Yeah, so this graph here, these graphs that I'm going to go over, this was done by Keller Williams Realty International. There are economists that work specifically with Keller Williams to pull data, to pull information, and they share this information at an event we call Family Reunion. Just happened here a couple weeks ago. So I want to share this, and it's unemployment and income by sector. So when we look at unemployment rates have grown, they're high. How is it that our economy is still moving? How is it that we're still selling real estate? So the yellow and the purple bars here are the unemployment rates for those sectors between August of 2020 and January of 2021. So you can see some of them have gone down, some of them have gone up for different reasons. But broken out into, financial services, professional and business services, wholesale trade, construction, manufacturing, transportation and warehousing, education, health service, retail, trade, and leisure and hospitality. So the further left we go on the graph, this is that segment's average weekly earnings. Now, this is a nationwide statistic. It's not specific to Colorado. And the further left, it's the lowest per week based on the graph here, right? So you can really see the segments that have been hit harder on average typically have lower weekly earnings. So why is it that the housing market is still the way that it has and people still have income? Is that this has not been a uniformly impactful pandemic as far as the shutdowns. Some of the shutdowns and the unemployment are hitting specific segments, and other segments are actually up and doing very well during all of this. There's a complete imbalance. And the folks that are doing well are the ones that are becoming first-time home buyers. They are buying a second home. They are buying the real estate that's there. So again, it's not uniformly impacting everybody with this pandemic.
Which is actually great for the real estate industry, and in turn, good for the economy. Because I know some people are in really bad situations, and that's horrible. But as far as our recovery and getting things back, that is how the real estate market has been able to bounce back so quickly, is because, like Matt said, there's been a lot that have survived or even thrived during the pandemic.
Well, and I would hope, and again, looking into my crystal ball, that when the restrictions lift up, when COVID is further behind us and we can safely do the events, I have a feeling people are going to go in droves to go to concerts, go to movie theaters, to do more travel, some air travel because of the restrictions. I'm hoping, right, that we see a dramatic bounce back for those industries that have been impacted hard.
Yeah.
Now this is another piece about the housing specifically as it comes to both unemployment and the percentage of the population that ends up purchasing a home. So you can see that on the left, the age group that's 24 and under, their unemployment rate's almost 10%. Now that's higher than the average, right, or kind of ideal mark where people want to see unemployment. So they're only purchasing about 3% of the homes, and that makes sense. When I bought my first home at 23, most of my friends didn't own homes. They were not even thinking that way, right? So it's always been a small segment. As we go into the 25 to 34, they're buying almost a quarter of the homes, and they're just under 7% for the unemployment. And then 3/4 of the homes are being purchased really by those that are over 35, and they have, again, the lowest unemployment rate. So we're seeing, people that are working, have income, are the ones who are able to purchase homes. And that's why we're still seeing things moving along.
I think a lot of people have had the question of, is unemployment going to catch up to us, and is it going to slow down the real estate market? Is that going to cause a correction? But I think this graph really shows it will play some part, and it has played some part, but because of these numbers and because where there being the most people that are unemployed are not the most commonly ones buying the home, it's not going to be as dramatic as maybe people thought initially, which is a good thing.
Yeah, it is. And nothing occurs in a vacuum, and nothing with real estate is immediate. We're going to probably see and feel these effects for years down the road as far as what long-term impact it has. Again, no way to really know. So there's one more graph that I want to touch on, and I'd love to know if Land Title could somehow put this together for the 7 major Denver metro counties. But this is nationwide affordability, historical affordability, really from 1970, as to how much percentage of a person's income went to the home. And you can see it's hovered, right around in the teens into the low 20s. We had some time in the 80s when it was up to 36%. When we look over to the far right into the last several years, we are about as low as it's gotten as far as affordability, the percentage of income that is spent on homes. And I share that because I hear often, how are, my kids or my grandkids, or how am I ever going to be able to afford a home when the prices have gone just the way that they have? The affordability has not really gone out of whack nationwide. Now, Colorado, I'll bet that this percentage is much higher because of our real estate prices, right? Versus if you were buying in the Midwest or some other areas where the affordability is a little bit different. However, we also have some higher paying jobs in certain segments. So again, it's always going to be a little relative. I'd be curious if Land Title could put anything together. So Brenna, I don't know if you want to pitch this to the powers that be, but a very interesting historical graph around affordability of real estate.
Yep.
Yeah, you have any 2 cents or comments to that one?
Well, I think, like you said, nothing happens in a vacuum. So I think this is a great graph, but we also have to keep in mind that most people's secondary debt is a lot higher. So if they have credit card debt or student loans or multiple car payments, that's playing into the feeling of affordability. So yeah, I mean, this is great. We're at 16% versus 36%. But in the 80s, maybe they didn't have 2 and 3 cars and 3 credit cards and different things like that. So it's a good graph. I think it makes a lot of sense, and I'm very curious as to what Colorado's is. But again, that feeling of affordability, I think, has a few more levels to it that play a picture.
Yeah, and debt's an interesting thing, right? We have to be making sound financial decisions if we want to get into home ownership. So it's not going to be super simple and super easy. If we're not taking care of our finances, it's going to be a little bit more and more difficult around affordability, right? Student loan debt is massive. I don't know if we're going to see it push through with student loan forgiveness or what that's going to look like. That may open up some opportunities. But again, if we open up all of those opportunities for people that aren't buying homes because of student debt, how many more buyers are we going to shove into the market, and what homes are they going to buy?
Well, hopefully they already have a home and they could put it on the market and buy a different one.
2 or 3 homes, right? Vacation rentals and all of that for the massive student loan debt that they had, right?
So everyone can travel to their second homes. We're going to help all the industries at the same time.
We're so not sure where it's going to go, right? Obviously, not an economist. Nothing occurs in a vacuum. These are all big picture issues, but questions, right? To have and to look at and to think on.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's the real estate numbers that we really wanted to share. Brenna, are we preparing here for this once in a decade snowstorm? Do we have enough, bottled water and toilet paper and all of the things?
Yeah, but my mom failed yesterday and I don't have mac and cheese. So I might have to get on that. But yeah, we'll see, is it going to be 2 inches? Is it going to be 2 feet? We don't know. I'm not mad at some sledding, but I was talking to a friend and we both had the same thought. If it's going to snow, let's let it snow. I want to be snowed in, or I want it to be nice. I don't want anything in between. So
yeah, get out, shovel the snow, put it into a big pile, put on your snowsuit, get out, if it's high enough, right? Dive into a big pile of snow and just enjoy, versus just enough to cause some traffic accidents and be an irritation. Yeah.
But hey, if you're a buyer this weekend, might be a good opportunity if everyone's afraid of the snowstorm, obviously safely. But I know a lot of people that don't want to go see homes. I would be one of them. in the snow. So it might be a great opportunity to have a little bit less competition. So just something to think about.
Yeah, I know that you talk to a lot of real estate agents. The agents that I've spoken with are all kind of echoing the same thing. They're not wanting to go out and show this weekend because of the snowstorm. There may be great opportunity if it's safe, right? I'm not telling anybody to be unsafe, so hear me. If it's safe for you to get out and go see homes, you may run into an opportunity where you're the only one going into that home and getting something purchased where other people, decided to stay warm by the fire and not go buy a home. So,
yeah, go get it.
Yeah. Well, as always, Brenna, I appreciate it. And I appreciate Land Title putting this stuff together so that you and I could geek out on the numbers and what does it mean? What does this look like? How do the articles that are being put out by third parties tie into what it is that we're seeing? So thank you again so much, Brenna.
Well, thank you for having me, and hopefully this is helpful, and I will drop in that article if I can into the comments. If not, you can reach out to Matt or myself, and I can email it to you if it's not something that I can put in there. But definitely a good article. Like to share what the different things that we hear. So,
yeah. Well, awesome. Well, again, thanks so much, and we'll tune in next time to review what the numbers were for March 2021.
Sounds good. Have a happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone.
Thanks, y'all.